Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Show, episode 18. We're going to do an introduction and looking ahead to the SharePoint Conference 2014 in Las Vegas. Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Show, the only place to stay up to date on everything going on in the Microsoft Cloud world, including Windows Azure, Office 365, SharePoint, Exchange, Lync, and related technologies. Just the information, no marketing, no BS. I'm Andrew Connell.
And I'm Chris Johnson.
And we're just two dudes telling you how we see it. Well, good day, CJ. How are you doing today?
Really well, thank you. Really well. I'm glad to be on the show today. I'm in sunny Queenstown, New Zealand.
You're still on vacation.
I am. But hey, I've got to show up and do this pod show, so it's not all vacation, mate.
Yeah, right. I've seen the pictures on Facebook. So I guess there's not a whole lot for you to report on the whole work side then, right? Or just kind of chilling out. Yeah,
pretty much. Like I said, on holiday, doing a lot of wine tasting down here and hanging out in the most incredible scenery in New Zealand down in the South Island. It just blows me away. So having a great time. But on the work front, I will have some work news coming up shortly.
Oh, wow.
So we'll chat about that another time. But interesting times.
Very cool. Very cool.
How about yourself?
I guess on the work side, I am plugging away at trying to knock out another Pluralsight course. I've actually been working on one that should go live in early or mid-March. That's about building SharePoint hosted apps using as a single page app, using things like AngularJS, and also been working a lot with the developers that are behind a library called Breeze.js or Breeze. Which is essentially, the best way that I can explain it is that it's, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is that it's basically Entity Framework, but in the client. So it allows you to do caching, validation. You can go, when you go to get some data, you just say, I want to go get an item with the key of number 4, or ID of 4, and it checks its local cache. And if it has it, it gives it back to you. Otherwise, it automatically just goes straight back to the server. So really makes things really nice. Done a lot of work with them building a SharePoint data service adapter, because that's something that Breeze uses, because the SharePoint OData feed is, one, so massive, and then two, it also has some non-standard stuff in it, so they've had to abstract it out. But working on that, and I guess I'm now in the final 4 days before I run a half marathon. Been battling a very painful injury, and I still think I'm touch and go if I'm going to be able to do it or not. So if I can do it, I know I will not be able to walk early next week.
Oh dear, yeah, that's kind of that's a double-sided coin, isn't it? That's it's like really want to do it on the one hand, but on the other hand, not sure you want to live with the consequences.
Yeah, well, I will live with the consequences. I'm fine with that. I was supposed to do 12 or 13 this past weekend, 12 or 13 miles. I did 11, and I was not able to walk on that day or the following day. The following day, I could not walk at all. I was having to grab chairs and couches and stuff to try and hold myself up. But I'm back to walking after a bunch of therapy this week, and you can't just say no. After I've logged over 180 miles now in the last 2 months, ramping up for this, and so it's 13 more is like, I can't not do this. So
right.
But
hey, also your that course. Sorry to change the subject just before you move on, I guess, but that course, I was going to say gagging, looking forward to it, but very much looking forward to it. I think is probably more appropriate. I think that's going to be a really, really good resource for SharePoint developers and the app model, because it's bringing together all those kind of cool new technologies that all the cool kids are using over in JavaScript world. Mm-hmm. Like Breeze and all of that, and Angular and things like that, to build these Spa apps that I think will make building those SharePoint apps a ton easier. So yeah, I think that's going to be a really nice resource.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's a lot of the apps that I've done for customers. We kind of have this discussion where we start talking about apps. They think they want provider hosted. We work on provider hosted. They see that there's a a bunch of costs, both in resources and extra costs that the customer has to deal with in terms of where they're going to host it and back up and restore. And if you do it all as a SharePoint hosted app, you actually get a really good user experience. And I've built this one. I had done one previously that I had showed off at a couple conferences, and I used a framework called Angular. I used Durandal. This one I use Angular. I like Angular a lot more. And I guess I also intentionally did not use any third-party UI components like Bootstrap or anything, because I really wanted to leverage the SharePoint user interface. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's show you how to mock it up. I show you how to use live data, get live data involved with it using the Angular $HTTP and $resource services. The $resource is it's a REST helper, essentially, REST API helper. And then I morph that over to Breeze, take the data context out and replace it with a Breeze data context, and then finally show you how to incorporate workflows as well into it, and even create your own workflow form that works in a single page app kind of way instead of redirecting you to an ASPX. So it's a lot of SharePoint nuances that you have to deal with in this, but it's been fun. Everything, it's code complete. I'm now producing the modules, the videos now. So I really wanted it out by the SharePoint conference, but the Breeze stuff took a little bit longer. So I still got a chance of getting it done by then, but I don't think Pluralsight will have it all produced and everything. Yeah. But I definitely have a few. We're going to launch this show the week of the SharePoint conference, and I can guarantee you there will be a bunch of blog posts on my blog coming out during the show about this topic. So get the course done first. So stay tuned.
That's going to be a great resource, and sounds like the session, the material that comes out of it is going to be really good too.
Yep.
Nice.
Cool. Well, so in this show, it's as I just mentioned a second ago, the show's going to come out the week of the SharePoint conference. And what CJ and I wanted to do was we wanted to take a few minutes and just talk about the show, leading into give it a little bit of a preview for some people. But again, while this episode will go live the week of the show, it just kind of gives you an idea of things that we're interested in and we're looking for, some information, news, and stuff that I'm really looking to hear from Microsoft and some guidance going forward. And then we'll talk a little bit about, towards the end, about some of our plans at the show as we're talking about doing little updates throughout the show. So we'll go ahead and kick this off. I guess the first thing, just to recap real quick, is there's a couple big macro kind of things, and that's everyone wants to know about the attendee party. This one's going to be pretty cool, although it's a killer concept, but I'm really curious to see how it's implemented with thousands and thousands of people, and if it's going to be something a lot of people have fun at, or if it's just a few people will have a rip roaring time and the rest of the people are just going to hang around, socialize, and get drunk.
Yeah, it's going to be. I'm interested in seeing the race course and all of that sort of stuff. So that's going to be really interesting. But yeah, it's always a highlight of the conference is the big attendee party. But I actually have a session that I'm doing pretty early the next day, so it's going to be fairly quiet for me. It's not going to be super loud and and hungover the next day. So I'm looking forward to going and seeing it, but sort of also thinking about my next morning and how painful or the lack of pain that I want for that. So
yeah, you don't just have one session the next day; you have two. So you can't even rally, get your session done, and then crash for a couple hours. You're back at it again pretty quick. But yeah, so
that's right. That's right.
The party that we're talking about is what Microsoft has done is they've bought out the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and they have a lot of events about where you can do a ride along and I think a NASCAR, and there's a bunch of other like go-karts and stuff that essentially it's a ton of stuff that when you mix a bunch of geeks, alcohol, and race cars, I am still shocked that the lawyers at Microsoft actually signed off on this, and there's still going to be a bunch of them probably that are going to have some sleepless nights sleepless Tuesday night until they find out that either everybody shows up to the conference on Wednesday or by Wednesday afternoon when the hospitals start calling.
Yeah, it's it will be interesting to watch. Definitely, I'm kind of looking forward to it. The last one was at Disneyland, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's Disneyland?
Yeah.
No. Sorry, that was the time before. Oh, I get them all mixed up now. We had Bon Jovi at the last one, I believe.
Oh, that's right. A beach party at Mandalay Bay.
Mandalay Bay Beach Party with Bon Jovi. And then before that was Anaheim. And the party was at Disneyland. And I really enjoyed going on the rides and things. But I did really think that having a band was a great idea. So I'm not sure if they're going to have a band at this one, at the Motor Speedway. There haven't been anything announced, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. So that's the party. That's on Tuesday night. On Wednesday night, something that will be a lot more subdued is the Ask the Experts. That's going to be at 6:15 on Wednesday night. And that's always good because if you have questions about specific things that you may have seen at the conference or challenges that you have, there will be a bunch of people there. All of the presenters, the session presenters are supposed to be there, and they'll all be standing around at little booths where you can go find the booth of a specific topic and then go and ask questions. I know that last year when they did this, last conference they did this, they had lots of little tables in this tiny sectioned off area. And it was just, I could see the table I was assigned to get to and staff it to answer questions, but I had to get through a mass of very tightly packed people. And
it was way too small, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like, screw this, I'm going to sit on the sidelines.
Yeah. The other one, that's a really good event. If you can go find people to talk to about a particular topic or the speaker that you haven't had a chance to catch up with, that's a really good event to do it at. On Monday night, there's Club SPC as well, which is kind of like a more low-key kind of party. It's, there'll be a DJ, no doubt, and things like that. And that's quite a good social mixer as well. So you can also find a bunch of people to talk to there. And, although, I guess my point is, although there is the Ask the Experts session, there's a bunch of other kinds of things where you'll find speakers and experts in different, social gatherings. And those are often, great times to hit people up about, shop-related questions, so to speak, and get your questions answered.
Absolutely. And I guess we almost forgot about one of the most important ones, and that's the SharePoint by day, SharePint by night. That's on Sunday night as people start showing up. And I'm trying to remember exactly where that's supposed to be. I think that they put that in the there's a bar inside the Venetian that they're using. I'm trying to look that up really quick while we're still talking.
Yeah, let's see if we can grab that. That's, SharePint is, the community sort of led gathering that happens, around the world at all these different conferences and events to do with SharePoint, and it's always an absolute blast. I mean, it's a great way to kick off a week of technical content by catching up with everybody and seeing all your friends and things. And often you'll get, a lot of the speakers go and things like that. It's a great way to connect with those folks in a real social gathering right up front. So that's definitely one not to miss. We'll link off. There's a Facebook event page for that gathering, and we'll link off to that from the show notes as well.
Yeah, I'm having trouble pulling it up, so we'll definitely put a link up to that. I guess. I guess once we hit it in the show notes, that's when it'll already be over. But we'll still put it out there so you can see what you missed.
Oh yeah, we're going to publish it at the beginning of SharePoint Conference, aren't we? So it'll be after after SharePoint's done.
Yeah. So that's some of the different events that are going on. And then there's also a great resource, the MySPC site, where you can go in, find sessions. You can put them on your calendar. You can even link your calendar up to Outlook or any of the device that you're on using the WebCal link, so that you can get a nice. You don't have to go through and add them to your calendar or wait to get the little booklet and add your sessions in that way. So there's the next two things. Well, next, I guess 2 or 3 things we want to do is that one reason people go to these shows is not just to party and go to a raceway and have.
Wait, what?
I know it's a bit of a shocker, but so one reason people do this is for the content. And so let's talk a little bit about the pre-conference and post-conference sessions. Let's talk about, I guess, the sessions that you and I are presenting, and then also some other sessions that we've seen that are of interest. So. As far as the pre-cons go, I mean, I'll go ahead and kick this off, and then I'll let you
Sure.
talk about one. Now, keep in mind that we're going to talk about it from our perspective, and CJ and I are primarily on the development side and on the business side. So, the IT pro administrative stuff, and then there's some other topics that are not up in our wheelhouse, and so there are things that just because we don't mention them doesn't mean that they're not worth going to, except for that one session that's going to be just complete crap. So, just no, I'm not going to say which one it is. Actually, I haven't picked it out yet, but anyway.
There's always one.
Yeah. So, first one, there's a pre-con session on before the show starts. It's called Migrating Traditional SharePoint Solutions to the App Model. It's by 3 people from Microsoft, Sonia Koptev, Kirk Evans, and Richard, and I can never say his last name, Dizerga.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Dizerga?
I know that
Yeah.
Kirk's been doing a lot of work around that. Kirk's a good friend, and I know he's been doing a lot of work around taking solutions and full trust solutions that people have built and coming up with patterns and practices and some guidance on how you should map some of those things over to the new app model that Microsoft introduced in SharePoint 2013. And just some good guidance around there. So it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. It's, I don't mean to say that to sound like I'm being cynical, but it is 3 people from Microsoft that are presenting this, and so you are going to get a company line kind of a thing. But if you corner into any of these guys outside of the session too, they will all give you a very honest and open kind of response to it. So
yeah, I think that pre-con will be really useful for people maybe who don't know a lot about the app model and are building full trust solutions today and want to learn, or at least kick off the process of learning how to map concepts of how they build stuff in full trust solutions today to the new app model. And as we all know, it's not a perfect story, but I think these guys and girls will be really good at being fairly pragmatic and showing you, like, hey, you do this particular thing this way today, and here's some options for how you could potentially do it in the app model. I think they're all very realistic, and they won't have any qualms about calling out things that you just can't do, but also in the same breath being quite creative about maybe alternate ways you could do a similar kind of thing.
Yep. Agreed. It'd be some good guidance. It'll be an interesting session to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
So, how about you? You got a pre-con that is you got your eye on, or that interests you?
Yep. I think Scott Hillier is doing one on pre-cons are on Sunday, by the way, and this is an all-day one. It's called Cloud App Developer Critical Skills Jumpstart. Scott's awesome. I've followed him for a long time and his material, and the things he's talking about covering in this session are pretty interesting. So he says, technologies such as JavaScript, TypeScript, jQuery, OData, HTML5, MVC4, Web API, all those kinds of technologies that, typically have not been in the SharePoint developers toolkit or Quiver, and how to use them in building SharePoint apps and so forth going forward. So that will be one not to miss. Scott's great presenter, very engaging, and obviously knows his stuff inside out and back to front. So that's one I'm definitely interested in sticking my head in on. Yeah,
this one is. I'm disappointed that I don't show up to the conference until Monday night, and I'm disappointed that I'm going to not have the opportunity to see what he talks about in here, but. This one has an interesting backstory to it, and there's a lot of reasons that parallel why I'm building the course that I talked about at the beginning of this episode, and the reason why Scott came up with this. And, I see most SharePoint developers as your traditional SharePoint developers are server-side people who, when this new app model came out, they all flipped out because they thought that they couldn't write server-side code, and they saw that we were all being pushed over to SharePoint or over to JavaScript and in the client, and using things like HTML5 and CSS, and it really freaked out and ticked off and scared a lot of people, I thought. And it's because a lot of this stuff is foreign to them. But one of the things that's so great about this app model is that this thing is not. There's nothing really new to the app model. It's just new to SharePoint. This stuff's been around for a while. So I think, and Scott and I have had some really good conversations about this, where I think we both agree with this, that the statement that I don't think that Microsoft is speaking the right message to the right people. When the app model came out, Microsoft was all about, look what you can do with the app model. You can do this, you can do this, and it's all client-side stuff, and all this stuff is great. But the problem was they made the assumption that so many of the people they were talking to already knew a lot of JavaScript, and they already knew a lot of client-side and talking across services and OAuth and all that kind of stuff. And most SharePoint people that I saw didn't know this stuff. It was all brand new. Yep. And most of those same people looked to Microsoft for all of their documentation. And Microsoft didn't have documentation around JavaScript. They had stuff for using JavaScript with SharePoint, but the concept of promises and closures and all that kind of stuff was foreign to them. And so it's almost like the message that Microsoft came out with was really for those people who are web developers who want to get on the SharePoint platform, but they were using that message to talk to people who are already on the SharePoint platform that didn't understand what the prereqs were, and they were assuming they had the prereqs. So what Scott's doing in this session is he's really coming about and saying, I'm going to give you all the prereqs for all you SharePoint people so that you can get up to speed to really be able to be productive.
Yeah. And it's great because, that means you're spending a day up front doing all of that prereq stuff, and then, then the sessions that you pick later in the week, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday might be, next level stuff as opposed to the 200 or, early 300 level sessions.
Yep. Agreed.
Nice.
Yeah, so that'll be good. He's got a couple other breakout sessions that I know I've got my eye on that I'll highlight too in a minute when we go through those. But so that's a good one. I definitely would recommend checking that one out. Another one is, and if you don't end up, because if you're unaware of the session of the pre-con, and obviously you're just hearing about it for the first time on this episode, which means it's already happened, or we should actually release this episode a little bit early, just because.
Yeah, why not?
The easy to say right now. I just got to make sure we get it done. I'm sure Scott has a blog as well. You can go find his blog, and he'll usually post a lot of the information that he would have in his pre-conference session anyway. So you can get it from there. Another one of the sessions, it's a post-conference session, and this one's going to be really interesting. And for me, it really makes my head hurt in terms of when you talk about this, and that's taking SharePoint Server and looking at a SharePoint 2013 on-prem and an Office 365 solution, and putting the two together for a hybrid solution.
Yeah. This is going to be people's lives for the next X many years. It's going to be living in this hybrid world, and so these kinds of topics are at least to me, are very, very topical and very interesting right now.
Yeah. It's so complicated, and there are so many edge cases, and it's interesting because the session title is about SharePoint Server 2013. So I'm assuming that we're going to see some new stuff, I'm sure, at the conference, but it's taking what we already have. And anybody that's done this, I haven't done it. I've watched and read a lot about it. I mean, this is a complicated thing there's no pattern to this. It's just we need to find out what you want to do, and let's talk about the different options that you have around search, around X, around Y, around Z. It's a hard freaking problem to deal with. Yeah.
So the title of this post-con is called SharePoint Server 2013 and Office 365 Hybrid, and it's the speakers are Bill Bayer and Steve Peshka, two, absolutely legendary SharePoint guys for a long time. I used to work with Bill at Microsoft, and actually used to work with Steve as well for a while there. And these guys really know their stuff. I mean, Steve is like, I don't know what the right term here is, like, I don't know, the godfather of identity, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so no doubt we'll be hearing a lot about identity and hybrid environments, different workloads that you can, that lend themselves well to a hybrid environment, and learning from, Steve is obviously, he works for Microsoft still, and is working with customers all the time in the field, and he will know, or he will come armed with a whole bunch of real practical examples of these big, hairy hybrid deployments that you can learn from. So that's going to be really epic.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with.
I'm kind of glad it's only 4 hours long because it's a post-con from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Thursday, which is just after I think the majority of the rest of the conference finishes at Thursday lunchtime. Mm-hmm. And 4 hours is going to be enough for anybody's head to explode. So there'll be tons to take away in that.
Yep, totally agree. Okay, so let's take a few minutes. Let's talk about some breakout sessions, and we'll kick it off first with what you and I are doing. So how many sessions are you presenting this time around?
I'm doing 2 sessions, both on Wednesday. I'm doing one on a new piece of technology called the Web Application Proxy, which is part of Windows Server 2012 R2. There's a mouthful for you. Mm-hmm. And it's all about reverse proxying SharePoint to your users externally. So being able to use the web app proxy. Previously, this was done with, or at least from the Microsoft toolset, was done with things like UAG and TMG, mm-hmm. Which are being phased out, and so now Microsoft has the web application proxy as sort of the first step to replacing those products. So I'm going to talk about basically how you can use that role in Windows Server 2012 R2 to publish certain pieces of SharePoint out to the universe to assist your users in staying productive while they're outside of the office.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. That'd be interesting. A whole new technology. That's gonna be fun to be working on. Always fun to be working on a breakout session that's got a brand new piece of technology in it, huh?
Yeah, definitely. There's actually some other things I'll be covering in that session, which I think are really interesting as well. Is a new piece of technology called Workplace Join, which is kind of like a lightweight AD join. If people are familiar with when you join a machine to Active Directory, there's a new technology called Workplace Join, which is for things like BYOD scenarios where you've got employees bringing phones and tablets into the organization, and how you can assist with managing those. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the web app proxy quite nicely. So I'll show a scenario, for example, where you can have somebody bring an, like say a Surface device, right? Their own Surface RT device, and do a workplace join and only allow devices that are workplace joined to get access to your reverse proxied SharePoint environment using some funky claims technology. So it's kind of cool. It's really cool, I think, anyway. So I'm excited about that session.
Cool. That's SPC 333. That's on Wednesday at 3:15.
There's a lot of threes in that.
There's a lot of threes in there. Yes, definitely. And your other one's got a whole bunch of a denomination of threes too. So
interesting.
You have another session that's the same day, that morning. That's the one you were alluding to earlier. What's that one all about?
Yeah. So the second one is all about building socially connected applications using Yammer. So I'm going to show people how to integrate with Yammer from their applications to sort of socialize their app. And by that I mean doing things like adding the ability to like and post and do all those kinds of social interactions from your custom applications, and leveraging Yammer to do it. So I'll show some examples. I'll show some examples of apps that I've been writing and working on, and kind of what people can do in that. And really, it's also to get people started with building things with the Yammer API as well. So we'll cover a lot of the basics of how to integrate with Yammer and the various API options, everything from the JavaScript API through to just calling the REST services and so forth.
Very interesting. So that one is SPC 371. That's on Wednesday at 9 a.m. So
that's going to be that's the one right after the party the night before.
So you're going to show people how to be social at 9 a.m.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Also, I kind of think it's a blessing in disguise having the first session after the party, because you know that the people that show up really care about your topic.
Yeah, well, it is. I've been in this situation like 3 or 4 times after a really good party, and let's just say there's another conference that I'm involved with where they never schedule me to. They know that they're very nice to some of their presenters, and they say we will never schedule you the morning after after our party. We will only schedule you late the next afternoon, if at all necessary. And it's not because of the whole drinking thing or that kind of stuff, and people having too good of a time, but it's just some people don't hang out and enjoy the parties nearly as late. We'll put them early, and we'll put the ones that do enjoy the party. We'll have them stay a little bit, not present until later. So I much prefer that option. You can enjoy your double-edged sword or something.
Yeah. We'll see.
I'll pass.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Cool. So how about you? What are you chatting about this conference?
I am going light. I have one session at this conference, and I wouldn't even say it's fully even really my session. I feel guilty taking credit for much of it because I like to consider myself more just like an MC or a DJ for this next session. So my session is on Tuesday at 5 p.m. at session SPC 399. It's called Building a Modern Portal in 75 Minutes. And the idea is that it's kind of a repeat for what we did at the SharePoint conference last time, which is the last session before the party at the Raceway. And what we're doing is we've got three or four developers. Three developers. Yeah, three developers who are going to be building a intranet, a modern intranet on SharePoint Online in 75 minutes. And what I'm going to do, along with another guy, Dan Kogan, who's my co-presenter, what he and I are going to do is basically MC it, add a lot of color, ask questions from the presenters, and also man a T-shirt gun that will be firing T-shirts. That is, I guess that's your legacy at Microsoft, as the T-shirt gun.
I'm glad I'm remembered for something.
Yeah, so we got a T-shirt gun and everything, and it's my job is to help kind of come up with the story and help kind of keep the session on track and in the right timing and everything. But I'm not doing any work. I'm all the work is being done by three other people, and so I don't want to take too much credit for this because it's not my thing.
This style of session I love. I loved. You guys did a similar session last year on building a website, kind of in 90 minutes, right?
Yep.
And you did it with Dan and a bunch of others as well. Luca, I believe, was there, and who else was there?
So we got two repeat, or I guess two. How do you say it? Repeat or return presenters. It's myself and Dan Kogan are the MCs. Alyssa Levitz is one of the ones who was with us last time. She's with us again. Luca Bandinelli is also going to be there as well, and then we've also got Jeremy Kelly is also going to be with us. And so our session's going to be all about, we're going to have some responsive in there, some responsive design. We'll have mobile. We'll have how to integrate Yammer into your site. And then we have something else, which I can't talk about on the podcast because it's actually going to be announced as a big new thing in the keynote. And we're going to incorporate it and show it in our portal. So I can't go into much detail on that one just yet. But that'll be pretty interesting. That'll be very interesting.
Exciting. I just love this format of doing something real in 90 minutes. And there's obviously some shortcuts you got to take because you only got 90 minutes. But it really just does. Having a bunch of people on stage and sort of switching back and forth between people doing different parts of the solution is it's a really cool way to see things come together. And I thoroughly enjoyed the last one. I thought it was really funny and really good and very interesting. And I think people will find this one equally as useful as well. So that's definitely one not to miss.
Yeah, that one I'm looking forward to that one. So it'll be fun. Now, so that's on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Now, so let's just, and we don't want to go through, do a long list here, but I know that I've taken a few minutes to look at the schedule, and I've picked a couple sessions that I know that I'm interested in. I know that, I missed the first day of the conference on Monday, and on Tuesday, I know we're going to be doing some prep and everything for my session on Tuesday night. So, I'm going to probably end up taking a lot of the sessions I'm going to mention here and just go grab the videos, and hopefully I can grab them before I have to leave and jump on a plane so I can watch some on the way home. But a couple of sessions that I just wanted to highlight that I thought would be interesting. And let me throw a couple of them into the same bucket here. On Tuesday morning, I don't have any listed for Monday, and it's nothing negative about Monday. But on Tuesday morning, Wes Preston, who's a SharePoint MVP, is doing a session on client-side rendering. And that's all about how you can use JavaScript and display templates and HTML to customize how the session, or how how fields are rendered and how lists are rendered by overriding Microsoft stuff. You kind of jump in place. So that one's really interesting. My theme is mostly around, I'm looking forward to anything that is new stuff around the app model, new stuff in the client, or stuff where people are talking about stuff in the client, and anything related to workflow. That's kind of my theme.
Gotcha.
But, that's Wes's session. Right after that, I believe another session is Scott Hillier's got one called Complex Problem Solving and the new HTML5 APIs. That's session, I don't know what number that is, but it's Tuesday at 10:45 in the morning, and that's all about CSS and HTML5 and how you can go build some cool stuff, new client-side stuff around that client-side solutions here. But another one that's at the exact same time as that, and this one's frustrating to me. It's at the same time, and I really hope that I can attend this. But a friend of ours, Matt Bremer from Microsoft, he's presenting at 10:45 on Tuesday morning, and the session is TypeScript for SharePoint 2013 developers.
Oh yeah.
Now, he did this at a conference I was at back in London back in April, and it was phenomenal. But he's done all new stuff with this and showing some really cool stuff. So I'm really keen to see what he's done with this, and hopefully they don't schedule a dry run for my session at the same time with this. I really want to skip over and see this one.
Yeah, that sounds really handy. I love going to, I know it sounds stupid, but going to sessions that I know nothing about is for a while there, you go to sessions you want to learn more about, and now I think I've switched to going to sessions I know nothing about. And some of the best sessions I've ever been to have just been random ones that I've known nothing about, and I've gone and just been blown away by. So I think some of those have fallen into that category for me.
Yep. There is a session on Tuesday morning that I think that is going to be of interest to both of us because it was the topic of conversation on the last podcast.
Yeah. So this one is update on InfoPath and SharePoint Forms, Tuesday, March 4th at 9 a.m. This is SPC 348, and I believe there's already about 600 people signed up for it in my SPC, which goes to show exactly how interesting this topic is and how much people want to know about it. So this for me is definitely going to be one not to miss. We'll hear Microsoft's plans for forms in SharePoint, hopefully, and a whole bunch more information on that around that recent announcement about the retirement of InfoPath. So
yeah, this will be interesting. This is by the people that were behind the blog post that came out where it was retired. So it'll be very keen to see what they say about this. That's one session that I definitely want to hear firsthand from the presenters, and not talking to somebody and finding out, okay, what did they say? So
yeah, because you want to hear the exact words they use on this one, because it's something you can't the message will change the more people it goes through. So I think getting it straight from the source is a really good idea on this one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's one more on Tuesday that really I got my eye on, aside from I guess the one that I have to present. And that's by Scott Hillier. It's third-party JavaScript libraries you need to know, and that one is going to be at 3:15 on Tuesday. This session, Scott's going to go through a ton of client-side libraries like jQuery and Angular and Durandal and Data.js, tons of libraries, and talk about things that you should know. And it's going to be a mishmash of a ton of stuff. I've worked with Scott a little bit over the last week, showing him some of the stuff that I've done with Breeze. And he has, after I showed it to him, it was enough of the stuff that it made him take a step back. And he's actually created some space and is going to talk a little bit about it in that session. I had planned to go to this session, and he was going to point people to me or whatever if they had any questions about the whole Breeze side of it, until I found out that my session was immediately following this, and there's a big setup involved with trying to get 5 presenters, everybody sharing a machine and a t-shirt gun. You can't just roll up and just say we're ready to go. So
yeah, it's I'm looking forward to seeing the t-shirt gun again. You know, I bought that quite a number of years ago, and it was fun.
Yeah. So this will be
shot.
This will be it'll be an interesting session. I'll definitely be grabbing the video for this if I can't slip in there. But if you're interested in client-side dev, that's going to be, and if you're interested in client-side development and you haven't done a lot with it, you're going to pick up a lot of really good libraries from that session.
Nice.
Yep.
One of the other ones, I think it's more of an intro session or an update session, I guess, for want of a better word. Mm-hmm. It's called Developer Audience Keynote, What's New for Office and SharePoint Developers, by Rob Lefferts and Brian Jones. This is on Monday, right after the keynote. I think it's at 11 a.m. It's SPC 269. This, I think, will be interesting because this is likely to be the session where you hear about this is likely to be the session where you will hear more in-depth content about what was announced specifically for developers from the keynote. So for those who don't know, Rob Lefferts and Brian Jones work on the SharePoint team at Microsoft, and are the guys behind what's going on for SharePoint developers around the app model and so forth. So this session is likely to be the one where we see more information about what's new and what's coming for developers.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's a good session. I'm glad you mentioned that one, because I completely forgot about that one.
We've got the developer hat on in this because you and I are that's our center of gravity, so to speak. So there's loads and loads of other sessions, of course. There's hundreds of them, but these are only a sampling of a few.
The only two that I want to mention that are just the next day, because I know a lot of people I've been doing a lot of work around this, and just I guess one session I want to highlight is it's on Wednesday, and it's by Tim McConnell, and it's What's New in Workflow for SharePoint Online. And Tim is on the workflow team. I did a lot of work with him in the pre-SharePoint 2013 time. So I'm really curious to see what kinds of stuff that they are improving on, or what new things they're adding for what we have. I guess this kind of goes on to one other topic that I wanted to touch on, like what things am I going to the conference for that I want to walk away with, that I want to see Microsoft say, or at least see them talk about. And one is kind of an overall thing, is that we've gone from this model of going from a 3-year release cycle to being an iterative release cycle with a yearly drop somewhere about a yearly drop for updates for on-prem customers. But I'm really curious to see what are we going to see new things that are being announced for Office 365 that are like major updates, not little tiny features here and there, but are we going to see like a new product or a new feature, a big feature that's been added? And that's kind of goes along with workflow. It's like, if there's going to be changes with SharePoint Online and workflow, how's that stuff going to trickle down to me being on-prem if I'm an on-prem customer?
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting to watch how that's handled, for sure.
Yeah, so that's one big one. I'm also very interested about the InfoPass story, or the form story, and then anything that they're doing around the core developer stuff. So what pain points are they addressing with apps, and what have they done? What stuff has been fixed in Office 365 or addressed and enhanced? What things are they adding for on-prem? And then further, what things are they doing what new things are going to be there for us as app developers to solve some problems and stuff. So those are some of the big things. And I know that they're thinking about it, but I sure as heck hope that they do something about coming out and talking about their plans and their update strategy and just the business of running Office 365 and SharePoint Online and how we can expect certain updates and stuff like that. Because, as we talked about in one of the recent episodes and what I've talked about on my blog, is lately it's just been incredibly painful to be a client-side developer. So, yeah, so I'd be really curious to see where they go with all this.
If people could see where I'm recording this from, they'd have a bit of a laugh. I'm sitting in a car parked outside a house in Queenstown in New Zealand trying to get some peace and quiet. So it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, yes, no, I'm very much looking forward to the conference. I'm looking forward to seeing you there, obviously, seeing a bunch of other people there, going to a really bunch of great, interesting sessions and socializing as well. And I think it should be a really good conference. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's the highlight of the SharePoint calendar for me. So I was involved with organizing a couple of these conferences in the past for Microsoft, and it's nice to be on the attendee and speaker side, not having to worry about the organization of the conference and enjoying it for the content. So I'm looking forward to it from that perspective too.
Very cool. Yeah, it'll be good. It'll be fun. It'll be a good week. So I guess with that, we are also, the only thing that I wanted to mention before we cut this loose is we're going to try and do a couple episodes, like wrap up stuff on a day or recap stuff, so that we try and get some of the news out to people who are trying to find out the latest news about InfoPath or the latest announcements and stuff like that. So we got a handy dandy little portable microphone that we're going to take. And so we're trying to do a series of very short episodes every day. The transcripts for those will not happen on the same day. We'll be going live with those before the transcripts are ready. And we'll backfill those. But we want to get the information out as quick as we can. And my goal is, I hope that we have about 3 or 4 episodes that we can push out that are maybe 10 to 15 minutes apiece the week of the show. So hopefully we can do that.
Yeah, hopefully we'll cover some of the news and updates and that sort of thing and just get them out real quick for those that can't attend. And they'll kind of be just more wrap-up episodes, right, or summary episodes of what went on that day.
Yep. So it'll be good times.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Look forward to it.
So with that, you got any parting thoughts? You have any words of wisdom you want to install before people start heading out to the conference?
Pack carefully. Make sure you take pain relief and do your planning for your sessions well in advance. But also plan, I guess on that, make sure you have 2 options per time slot, because there's going to be sessions that are super popular that you're not going to be able to get into just because they fill up. So my advice is always have 2 per slot, and that should see you right.
Yeah, it's going to be the one thing I will say to everybody that I'll add on what CJ just said is that when this conference has been in Vegas, there's been one thing that they've given us in the little goodie bags that you get as an attendee, and the thing last year that I think was just absolute money for everybody was freaking chapstick.
Oh, that is an absolute brilliant point.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, sitting in those conference centers, I feel like a raisin on day 2.
Yeah.
You've just got zero water in your body.
Yeah.
It's all been evaporated out by the aircon. And so chapstick is that's a must have.
Yeah.
Conference survival kit.
Yeah. Drink tons of water so that you can dehydrate yourself very heavily at night. And tons. I have a chapstick that's already in my backpack ready for that one. So let's just
take a pedometer as well. Like I think I've been to a lot of SharePoint conferences, and at the end of every SharePoint conference, I kick myself for not taking a pedometer, because I want to know how many steps I do during a conference, because it's a lot. And so I'm keen to wear a pedometer this time around and just see how many steps I take during a day. I'm sure it's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, far more than you think.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I'm going to have one myself. I'm curious to see what the difference is at a show like this. I've only had it on at one conference, but it was a small venue, so it was only about 1,000 people. But this one, I've never been to this venue for a conference. Never been to the Venetian for a conference. So
No, neither have I.
We'll see what it's like.
Let's see if we can break our steps record over the Formula One. I think one day at the Formula One we did 27,000 steps. I think.
Yep, that's what mine said. So we had 27,000.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. At least it felt like a lot. So why don't we see what happens at SPC?
Hey, it's I wear it when I do my training runs for the half marathon, and I did a 11-mile run recently, and I believe for the day it was, I think an 11-mile run was somewhere in the ballpark of like 25 or 26,000.
Wow.
So you can just that's 11 miles. So think about that. If we did at the F1, if we did 27,000 in an 11-mile walk, or 11-mile run is about anywhere from 24 to 26,000 based on what your stride's like.
Yeah.
How's that?
That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah,
insane.
Quite. Cool.
Awesome. See you there.
All right. Sounds good. If you have a question for us, go to microsoftcloudshow.com/questions, where you can submit it as text or record it as a WAV or an MP3 file and provide a link so that we can play your question on the show. You can subscribe to us in iTunes by searching for the Microsoft Cloud Show or via RSS at microsoftcloudshow.com, where you'll also find a full transcript and show notes of each episode. You can find us on Facebook searching for the Microsoft Cloud Show or on Twitter at MS Cloud Show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.